Have you ever noticed that your crowd control doesn't always last the same amount of time? Do some abilities feel like they're consistent, but others feel like they last no time at all? Well, today we're going to dive into how that works by taking a look at one of SMITE's invisible mechanics, Diminishing Returns. For those of you who don't know, Diminishing Returns is an in-game mechanic that applies the duration time of hard crowd controls. Hard referring to crowd control which completely prevents the player from taking certain actions. And for the sake of my sanity, we'll be referring to crowd control as CC for the rest of the guide because this topic is one hell of a tongue twister. So the way this works is whenever a player is affected by a hard CC, the next hard CC within the next 15 seconds will be 33% weaker. And any hard CC after that will be 66% weaker for the next 15 seconds. It might help to think of it like one of the many stacking effects in SMITE. When you're hit by a hard CC, you gain a stack of diminishing returns, which reduces the effectiveness of hard CC against you by 33% for the next 15 seconds. If you're hit by another hard CC within the 15 seconds, you receive a second stack of diminishing returns, reducing the effectiveness of hard CC to 66% and refreshing the timer to a new 15 seconds. Diminishing returns maxes out at 2 stacks, but hard CC will still refresh the 15-second timer, even when it's at 2 stacks. However, it's important to know that diminishing returns does not work the same for all hard CC. Grabs, knockups, knockbacks, and pulls are not affected by diminishing returns, although they do still apply it. This meaning that their CC durations will not be affected by diminishing returns, but they will still apply a stack of diminishing returns which can affect other hard CC. And banishes do not interact with diminishing returns in any way whatsoever. Essentially, if your ability directly moves the player vertically or horizontally, it's pretty safe to assume that it won't be affected by diminishing returns, although it will probably apply it unless the ability is a banish. So let's take a look at some different ability interactions to demonstrate. Let's start off with Ymir's stun for a basic example. At max rank, Ymir's stun lasts for 2.25 seconds. And when hitting an enemy for the first time with the stun, it lasts the full 2.25 seconds. However, like we talked about before, the first hit applies diminishing returns, which decreases the effectiveness of future CC by 33% for the next 15 seconds. So when the second freeze lands, it only lasts for 1.5 seconds. By the third hit, the stun only lasts for 0.75 seconds. Now let's take a look at Hercules. Hercules' dash is a pretty perfect demonstration of diminishing returns because it's both a knockback and a stun. We can see that when diminishing returns kicks in after multiple hits, the knockback stays the same, while the stun doesn't last for nearly as long. It's also worth noting that Hercules' pull is not affected by diminishing returns in any way. It's not technically a knockup or a pull, and it doesn't fall into any category involving diminishing returns. However, let's take a look at somebody who does have a separate knockup and stun. Like I said before, knockups are one of the crowd controls that are unaffected by diminishing returns, but they will still apply diminishing returns. And you can see the difference between when I stun for the first time and when I stun after a few belly flops. So although the knockup remains the same, the stun is still affected just like the Ymir clips. Okay, and let's wrap this video up with an example of diminishing returns being painfully strong. Naja Sash is a 1-second stun that you generally want to follow up with an auto, a ring toss, or maybe even an ultimate. Diminishing returns can take this stun all the way down to 1/3 of a second, so that by the time I reach Huyi, the stun's already over and he can run out of my range. But that does it for the guide. Hopefully it was helpful. I want to thank Mookery, one of my patrons on Patreon, for sponsoring this video. If you guys have any other suggestions for guides you want me to make, let me know down in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next one.
I've been seeking for the glory. Say my name. And I've been trying to write my own story in the search for fame. I'm sitting here in this empty room, walls keep tumbling down.